I'm Councillor Bramble, Deputy Mayor of Hackney. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children's Services and Families. In 2015, I was asked by the Mayor to be the Cabinet Member for improving outcomes for young black men, and we set an ambitious and bold vision, saying in 10 years' time we would like to see the outcomes for young black men the same as the wider population, to see an improvement between the trust of the state and the community, and also seek to work together to think about how we tackle and combat sometimes the quite damaging and negative portrayal of young black men in the media. We're a time in society where we can no longer accept that women can't do certain jobs. We no longer accept the pay gap between men and women, and I think we're in that time to start saying that actually we don't accept those media negative portrayals and those outcomes for young black men.
My name is Deji Adeoshun. I'm the Youth Leadership Manager at Hackney CBS, and I coordinate the Inspirational Leaders. The Inspirational Leaders comes from is a group of young black men, and what they do is they deliver inspirational, motivational workshops in schools and youth clubs within the community, and it's all about really showing young black men in a positive light. Young black men are underperforming across the board. Most likely to be suffering from mental health, less likely to access the service, most likely to be excluded, most likely to go to prison, less likely to get a job, less likely to get housing. So the kind of life expectancy in terms of options for young black men in particular were quite stark, to be honest with you. Why do we call my group of young men Inspirational Leaders? Well, about a year ago we had a workshop where we asked some young black men, what's the first thing that comes to your mind or to your head when you say young black man? And what they said was gangs, knives, drugs. So, quite negative things. And so with the Inspirational Leaders, we have young black men who are doing aspirational workshops, leading projects in their local area, but basically doing positive things in their community. And I think that the more positive things that young black men are doing in their community, then hopefully slowly we can start to kind of change that kind of negative stereotype or negative narrative that surrounds young black men.
Samson, 25, Hackney.
I'm Thaddaeus, 20, born and bred in Hackney.
David, 22, also resident of Hackney.
Dummy, 24, born and raised in Hackney.
Having you guys has really encouraged me, because you guys, like I said, are doing positive things. But I guess my question is, how do we scale this up?
I think the main thing that I kind of found was that just in general, a lot of things kind of segregate black people from like the rest in a way, and we need to just find a way where we don't feel like we don't have to say it's all part of the same thing. So like when we're talking about the black history or British black history, like it's British history, so we shouldn't have to be labeling it as black something. If it's British or English, it's that, innit? Do you know what I mean? If it's made by a black person from Britain or white man, Asian, you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't have to label it as that, because then that kind of segregates things.
We do work in schools, we work within the family home, we work with young people in universal play and youth settings. So I think for me it was an opportunity for our service to really think about, if we were going to bring about cultural change within all of our service areas, why don't we try and do something with Young Hackney, because it crosses so many different domains. We have improved the understanding and skills base within the service area, and to think about how the model that we've used, incorporating the training with the London Met, how that could then be adapted and deployed right across the directorate in other service areas, and then perhaps also used in other contexts with other services within the council and beyond. I think it's been a very interesting journey for us. I think it's been a good platform to have staff on the same page. I think it's enabled us to harness the creativity of the staff team, but it's also sort of challenged us to reflect back on how we involve young people and families in shaping the work too. So I think the whole idea of how we're going to sort of co-produce these outcomes for young black men has become really, really important for us in thinking about who do we need to bring with us on this journey.
What are the learning outcomes that we want as an organisation, but also for the sector as a whole. So it's not just the council, but also our partners in the voluntary sector, our partners in business locally, and how everyone can play a part in improving some of those outcomes in terms of employability, thinking about housing for young people, think about some of the issues that young people may be facing as they get older, maybe things around mental health concerns. And so we need to encompass all the thinking and all the kind of strategies to embrace the differences across the borough. But it's something that could be rolled out nationally. I would dare say that if we get this model right and we start to think collectively about cultural competency and who we're having an impact on and reflective in our own practice, it will have positive outcomes all across the sector.
I'm Orlene Badu. I'm a head teacher of a primary school in Hackney called St Matthias. So I'm currently working on the multi-agency working party with a number of senior leaders. There's another group that's looking at CPD and training for teachers that are coming to work in Hackney. And the final group is transition, so supporting children moving from primary to secondary school. With the multi-agency working, many of us had identified that we felt that a lot of support that was available for families wasn't always taken up on, and we looked at ways that we could open that relationship, particularly because primary schools have such close relationships with families, how we could support that process. We felt that transition was a key time in terms of what happens between primary and secondary school, and how best we can prepare the children for that transition to ensure that they continue in a positive thread from primary to secondary. And I think we felt with CPD that actually we had to ensure that our staff had the tools within which to be able to provide for all children in Hackney, have a cultural understanding, and ensure that we all had high expectations for all of the children.
Okay, my name is Kome Owasu. I'm the parent support manager at the African Community School. I'm also a parent in the community with 4 children. So I was trained as a facilitator to facilitate the focus group. So trained as a facilitator to facilitate the focus group, it was very interesting to see the amount of issues parents are facing around young black men. So that was the reason I got involved, and I would like to see the outcome of the project at the end of the research.
Hello, my name is Thaddaeus. I'm a design apprentice with Hackney Council. I am here today with the Mayor of Hackney, Phillip, Glanville, and we are talking about the Young Black Men's Programme. Can you tell me why this programme is important to you as the Mayor of Hackney?
For me, the Young Black Men's Project is important because it is tackling a real area of inequality, and I made tackling inequality more broadly one of my key priorities as Mayor. Young black men are still behind other communities here in the borough, so we're not going to tackle broader inequality and make sure Hackney is genuinely a place for everyone unless we really focus in on those that are still being left behind in many different ways, but obviously most critically around attainment and opportunity.
Okay. So what is your vision for the programme?
I think my vision for the programme is to continue the work that we're doing. Obviously the programme's been going for around 2 years now. It's done a lot of work to look at the research, the statistics, engage with young black men in the borough. I think it's probably still got some more work to do to actually really become visible here in Hackney with a wider group of people, and that's something that I've talked about, but I think it's now moving into what next. So looking at those short-term things that we're going to change and improve, as well as that long-term look that the project's always had about where would we be in 10, 15, 20 years' time, about some of those real challenges about media and institutional perception.
So what would your message be to inspirational young leaders like myself that are working on this programme? What would you say to these types of people?
I think we need leadership at all levels of society to take this seriously. So there's a challenge for me, people within the council, but I think there's also a challenge for inspirational young leaders like yourself, but also some of those that you've been working with on the programme in terms of business education and other things, that we've seen too many attempts to just do sort of mentoring. It's got to be something that's really meaningful and engaging and actually goes out there and speaks to that wider community. So I think there's something for me as leader to talk about the programme more and say that we're doing this really important work and own it, but also the people involved like yourself are empowered to go out there and talk about it and also be a critical friend. You know, we've said we're embarking on this project, we want to see these outcomes that we've jointly agreed. Are we continuing to meet that aspiration? And I think it's got to be that regular challenge from people like yourself to say, is it still on track? Is it still meaningful? Is it still delivering?